Hi, this is Dawn. Welcome back. I just thought I'd add a little extra video in here in relation to dyed fabrics and threads and other embellishments. I thought about it while I was doing these bulbs for my spring bulbs page, because I'd used quite a bit of pre-dyed fabric that I just have. And my only claim to fame is that they're probably now considered vintage because I probably did it about 30 years ago. It might have been 28. So I think it sits in the vintage section and haven't used them. They've just been in my stash. But I realised that might cause some level of frustration for people if they're wanting to do something similar, not being able to have the same stash that I've got. And I have had a couple of questions about dyeing laces and trims. I have explained in the past that many of my laces that I do have dyed were dyed with Procyon dyes, which are a high grade dye, a fairly complicated process that I don't do anymore because I just don't. I still have the Procyon dye powders, but I don't do the dyeing as much. I have done a little bit, but not as much as I used to. So I have quite a bit of stuff in my stash. So today I thought I'd come on and try and keep this fairly short, just so that I could maybe help people who would like to have a go themselves. There's lots of people out there doing videos on dyeing with inktense pencils, with watercolours, with spray inks, all sorts of things. But here's my version of it. So these were my tulip bulbs that I've finished for my page, but that's in another video. But what I'm going to aim to do is do some of this dyeing that if people want to do it themselves, they can. There's only one thing that we won't be doing today, and that's wool. And the reason being is that wool is an animal fibre, where the others are plant fibres. Cotton, silks are plant. Nylons also don't take dyes well, so that's that's just something you'll need to work through. These were done with plant matter, eco-dyed, boiled, quite a big process. But I have just decided to get a piece of felt out of what I have. I did a burn test, which as soon as it starts melting, then you know that there's some plastic in it. But you know, we'll give it a go, see what happens. So yeah, so that's what I plan to do in this little video. My one suggestion is get your work surface sorted. I've used just what I had in the cupboard, plastic wrap. It's a freezer wrap. It's this one. That it's not quite as sticky to itself as what Glad wrap is, you know, the food wrap. The other thing, and look away if you get dizzy with the camera moving, but I just wanted to show you something. Gosh, where's my fingers going? I've set myself up a little mini spray booth, and it'll become evident to you in a little while. It's just a cardboard box that I've folded out the sides with. Sorry, I'm trying to go as slowly as I can until I get you straight. Okay, for those of you that shut your eyes, you can look back again. Now, all right, cool. So, and that's because the spray inks tend to spray everywhere, and I don't want it all over my other work surfaces that I'm trying to sew and stitch and have cleaner fabrics. Some overspray is okay, I just don't want it everywhere. So do it outside. But anyway, I thought I'd do the simplest version first. This is just a piece of tablecloth. It's been washed Oh, now I need to make sure that I'm in that screen. Gosh, I had terrible trouble with it yesterday. So, and I can't see my bit of tape. Making sure that I'm in the right spot. There, that's where I've got to be. Cool. And not as far as the box. Good. All right. So yeah, so it's been washed. That's my other recommendation. I don't always think about that, but it works better if you do. So the very simplest way of colouring fabric, if you have inktense pencils, is to colour it in. And then I'll show you what you do next by adding water, activating the colour. So on your fabric, you can mix the pencils. They will mix. I haven't tried with normal watercolour pencils. If you have them, I would imagine they'd work in a similar way. They may not just be as intense as what inktense pencils are, because inktense pencils are not a lead, they're a ink. So yeah, the way to make sure that the colour sets and doesn't, well, you know, I say it doesn't wash out. I don't think that I'm probably ever going to wash my embroideries. I don't think that that's what I'll need to do with them. If they got wet, they may not, they may not survive. But I give it a go and try and ensure that it maybe has some chance of survival. But you can heat set it. I just don't have the means to do that, and that's with, so the pencil that I use then is fuchsia, and I did a bit of highlight with cadmium orange. I haven't planned this, I just got some things out of my box of pencils and thought they probably will go together. This is amber, which is sort of that yellowy green colour, which I thought might be okay. And I'm going to put that in the leaves. So anyway, back to heat setting it. If you have access to an old microwave oven, I don't. I only have the one that we, reheat the leftovers from last night in. I might keep my eye open for it. There might be, I don't know if the op shops sell them, just because they don't always sell electrical goods, but well, I could go and have a look. But I would think the very cheapest one, I beg your pardon, the very cheapest microwave oven on the market, or from the cheap shop, would work. And so it's a matter of once you've got the dyes on your fabric and activated, you wrap it up in some plastic or just the Glad wrap, the food wrap. Make sure it's all folded, completely sealed, and put it in the oven for about 2 minutes. And in the microwave, not your normal oven. Please don't put it in your normal oven. I think that will end up a molten mess if you did. But for a quick and easy solution, which I'm going to be doing with this, is iron it. And so I tend to iron it dry to make it dry. That's what I'm trying to say. Not have the thing dry first. Have it still wet and iron it. And that way it'll create that steamed effect. Oh, the other thing that I forgot to tell you all about, is because I was using pencils, is if you really don't want your hands dyed, I would suggest wearing gloves. I think we've probably all got a cupboard full of them still from days when we were having to disinfect and sanitise every surface all the time. I know I do. I don't tend to use them for normal cleaning purposes, but because, as you've possibly seen in the past, I do suffer from dermatitis, so I prefer not to use gloves if I can help it. But for this purpose, I don't want red and green fingers because I want to do something else afterwards. So, being as organised as I am, I do have another little piece of plastic here because I'm conscious of the fact that I'm going to be moving around a fair amount of damp stuff, and I needed somewhere quick to put it that still had a bit of protection. So water, yep, just a spray bottle of water, and by adding the water to the paints you can see how much more on this side it's activated to that side. If you want it a bit darker, add a bit more pencil. It's as simple as that. I'm going to wet this side as well so that the pencil will go through. It's not probably as intense as the sticks when you first do it, but as you can see, once the leaf is wet, you get plenty of colour. Now, this will dry lighter. This will dry paler than it looks now. And so just be aware of that if you want it a bit darker, you might have to come back and do it again. And look, you know, this has taken us, what, 5 minutes at the most. As you can see, the minute you start adding, I'm going to use a brush just because I think I'll have a bit more control over it. You know, as soon as you add it to the wet, you'll get a much deeper colour. I'm just being fussy here about what this is going to look like at the end, but if you're not, then it doesn't really matter. Adding a little bit more in here as well will give you a bit more colour here. I didn't bring a smaller brush. I brought bigger ones because of what I want to do with them. Oh yeah, maybe I do have a smaller one. Cool. That's just a watercolour brush that I keep dipping into water over there if you can't see what I'm doing, and just spread that around so you get the intensity of what you want it to look like. Sometimes when you draw with a pencil, you'll get a line, so be aware of that. If you're wanting to have something completely coloured to, you know, a large area, a sky or something, using the pencils may have a level of frustration attached to it. But, you know, for something fairly simple, it doesn't take a lot of work. We'll let it dry, we'll give it an iron, and you do need to iron it for a couple of minutes and maybe put it between a piece of calico or something, because it will colour your ironing board. It won't do any damage to your iron, but it will colour your ironing board cover. And as you can see, it's gone through. So yeah, it was a fairly simple process to do. Good. Well, I've used that extra bit of plastic and I intend to keep on using it. Sorry. So I'll just get myself another bit, because my ironing board is right here, and I'll stick that over there. Cool. All right, so that's the basic pencils. I think anything that you want to colour will behave in exactly the same way. I've got just a little bit of lace trim. I'm going to do the same thing with it. Just add the pencil to it. It's got a bit of coffee dye on it or something, I don't really know. But just keeping this one, I'm just going to colour the one colour. I'm not going to try and be artistic about it. I just want to have a bit of pink trim. And what you can do is just dunk it in a little bowl of water. You don't have to have a spray bottle attached on hand. But once you start dyeing, colouring fabric like this, the surface underneath what you're working on will attract the dyes and the pencils. So be aware of that as well, because sometimes you can be, dyeing something pink and the next thing might be yellow and all of a sudden you've got pink spots on it. And that's because you've picked it up off here, off the plastic or the whatever it is. So just be mindful of that when you're doing it as well. If you want it to get on there a bit quicker, a little spray of water and it'll start colouring. Some fabrics absorb the dyes and the inks really quickly, and some you just need to keep working at it because it's the density of the material that it's made from. This is quite a heavy cotton, and so it's just going to take a little bit more. But for something, if I just felt like I really just needed a bit of pink trim, this would be a quick and easy way of doing it. I don't have to go researching it online, waiting for it to arrive, because I don't live near where we live. There are no haberdashery shops where I can buy trim. I have to, get in the car for 45 minutes, and by then the motivation's gone. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that keep on working on it. It doesn't really take that long. It's as long as what I've been talking to you. I haven't done anything different. All right, I'm going to pop that over there. The other thing that you can do is mop it up. Use that bit of stuff, that whatever it is that you're doing. It's not precious yet. It's not precious. It's going to be ironed, but pick up what dye you can off there. That can be helpful. Sometimes the more you squish it up, the more colouring it gets. The dye sinks into the fabric. What I didn't do first was wet it. Now, it's one of those preferences. Lots of people wet the fabric first because whatever it is that you're dyeing will absorb the dye quickly and evenly, if that's what you want it to do. I tend to dye dry, and that's because I don't mind the variation. And by drying it dry, you don't get as much of the watering down as you do if you start off wet. You've already diluted whatever it is that you're dyeing, because you've diluted it with water first up. A little bit of paper towel always goes a long way. The bit of calico underneath here is to catch things, because you never know, I might get something interesting go on there. But see, that's what was still left on the plastic, and really you could hardly see that. So like I said, if you suddenly want to have a nice bright yellow piece, you might be horribly disappointed. The next thing that I want to show you is something I have done in another video, but I thought I might as well do it all here together. For my Alice panel, I'm using some silk embroidery, and I've run out of the really narrow red one because that's one that I made myself. So for this product I am using the blocks. I'm doing a double check that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. What I do with those is I activate it first with water. So I'm just wanting this red colour, doesn't matter if it goes on the rest, it'll dry off. But that just gets the block started. And because I want a fairly intense colour, I'm not wetting the ribbon first either, and I'm wanting some variation. So a bit more water. I am using one of those water pens that's got a water reservoir in it. They don't always, the water doesn't always come out of them. You have to really play with it, but I find if I wet it first, it seems to help the water situation. Anyway, what I'm doing is dyeing this piece of silk ribbon because that's what I want. I already worked out that this was exactly what I want for that Alice panel. So I know that this is where I'm going. Other things can be a play, but I really want this bit of red, and I thought while I'm talking about dyeing, I might as well do that. So again, silk is a plant matter, and even though it comes from a little caterpillar, it's still as a result of those mulberry trees. And so yeah, I'm good with this. That's as long as it took, and if I'd had to wait for a piece of red silk ribbon, it would be next week before I was doing what I was wanting to do. And I don't have anywhere nearby that I'm likely to get fairly decent quality. There's probably a couple of shops around, but specialty quilting patchwork shops. But again, I've got to get in the car and drive somewhere, and I think the closest one is about half an hour away. And because we live in country Victoria, they're not always open every day, and they're probably not open on a Monday because they are sort of like a little bit. And so yeah, I'm mopping up that stuff off the table because I want it on the ribbon. So I'm just going to put that over on the over on my plastic sheet that I've got beside me that you can't see, for it to dry as well. So that's using the inktense blocks, and anything that you want to use them for, you can get the same result, including painting a picture. If you want to draw a picture with the pencils or use inktense blocks as a paint, you've got the same opportunity. The other thing that I wanted to show you, I've got this little palette here. I'm going to mop up some of that because I just don't want it all over the place. I collect white china from op shops, and I don't know what you would have done with that once upon a time. Well, there you go, it was $2, last of the big spenders. I don't know, a dip bowl or something that you might have used it for. I've got no idea. But what I wanted to do was create some spray with them. So by using the blocks, it's a bit more of an expensive way of doing it, but if you haven't got anything else, then you might want to. So just sort of like I don't want to use the whole block by any stretch of imagination, and I'm just trying to get a bit of powder going on here. It might have been a bit damp, but that's all right. I've got a fair bit there now, and I've got this teeny weeny little spray bottle. Susanna gave us these at her retreat in March. I've never even seen them. I've got some others that you can get from, you know, the $2 shop. I'm going to tip a little bit of that water out. I've only got, you know, a little bit in here now. I'm going to mop up this and put it in the jar. Anyway, the $2 shops have them in their, you know, travel kits that you know, when you're on a plane, you can't take large liquid quantities. So they sell things to put your shampoo and your whatever in. And I've seen these little spray bottles in there as well. And that would be a way of getting yourself some little tiny weeny spray bottles. But otherwise, I guess you find them online. I don't know where Susanna got them from. Got no idea. Anyway, hopefully I haven't got too much water in there. I probably do. And you're not going to use much. So what I've learnt with spray inks is to shake the bottle sideways, because if you shake it up and down this way, those little particles will get stuck, and there probably is one in there now that I've done that, you know, in the tube, the spray tube. And so yeah, it's this didn't take too long to make. I just make sure that there's no more gritty bits in there, because that's your colour. You don't want to, I probably shouldn't have used a wet brush to mop it up with, to put it in the bowl, because that might have not helped. Good. All right. I can see a few little gritty bits. I'm just going to make sure that that thing, oh no, that's all right. But there are important bits up there. So we want them. This was just that dirty olive green colour that I like. All right, don't waste anything. There's a bit left on there that we can use, and we might as well. And I might just use a little bit of this trim. I'm not going to use the whole lot. Not that much dirty green lace trim. This is another cotton trim. It's old. I don't even know. It would have been, you know, an op-shoppy sort of find. Let's spray it on there, only because we've got that bit of green, and I may as well mop up and use up what we've got now. It's a little bottle, and I've got gloves on, and I don't know what I'm doing. I think it's just because I'm doing it, hence the spray booth. And I really don't want this to go everywhere. I think I'm just not got, it's got that little, you know, that little spray thing. I'm just sucking it up. And I've only made a tiny weeny bit because, God, now I'm spraying my arm. Lucky I've got gloves on. All right. And now I'm going to use up that. Get rid of it. Add it to this piece. If I don't think that, you know, wanted to make a little bit more, But really, there wasn't a lot of work involved in that. And it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea colour. I almost used everything that was in that little bottle. I could probably put a little bit more water in and get a little bit more out. Can I be bothered? Nope. Let's just do that. It has got some of the stuff. This is a play day. This is about. So I'm going to keep on mopping here. There was a bit on the brush that I used to, and I've got a piece of green trim that I just might want to use. And so this, like I said, this piece of trim is really old. I wouldn't even know. I couldn't even tell you how long I've even had it for. And in fact, I don't even know that it was mine to start with. I think I bought it from an op shop place that had it wound on a card. So it's not, it's not new. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Yeah, I like the colour of it. Sorry, I know there'll be people out there that'll go, it's awful, but I really like it. But while I'm here, while I'm playing with this, I'm going to keep going. So that was the inktense blocks, okay? I don't know that we need to keep going with those. That's what the cover looks like. I'm sure you've all seen it now. Lots of people are using them. I'll put that one away. But the other thing that I have in around, I need to wash that little bottle out, all sorts of spray inks from the days when I did paper crafts, and I still have them. They still work, and they work on fabric because, again, they're a dye. They are dyes for papers, and they say for papers and porous surfaces. Well, I think fabric is a porous surface. This is one that's got a bit of glitter in the bottom, and this is one of those ones that you don't shake that way, you shake this way, so that the glitter bits or some of the actual pigment of the spray settles on the bottom. And they say you should store them flat like that, but I don't, because then it just collects there, but it doesn't collect where the spray nozzle is. Now, I might have cheated before I turned the video on and made sure that these sprayed, and they do, so that's all right. But here's where the spray brush comes in handy. Are you going to see that? No, not at all. So I will try and move it a little bit closer and see if that helps. Can I do that? No, just believe me. I've got, wait on, maybe I can do it. I just had that bit of, if I keep pulling that, see the cardboard cover is there. So I'm just going to spray into there so that I don't get it everywhere, because I don't want it everywhere. And so, yeah, just to sort of like maybe lighten this up in a couple of spots might be something that works, and until it dries, I won't know. But I'm going to give it a good old go in a couple of places, and we'll just see what happens, really. Like I said, I don't mind it if it's a bit mottledy. I don't want the dye to be all over the same, the one colour. All right, let's see what I get. That's what it looks like at the minute. A bit grungy, actually, but that's all right. I've just put it in a heap like this. If you start rolling it up and, yes, the colour will all blend together. and you can end up with it looking even more grungier than that. But let's keep going, and I'll do another piece of this. I'm just going to use the same plate and the same colour so you can see what it looks like without the other one. That was dry, I didn't wet it. Like I said, I'm happy for it to be, let's make sure the might have still been a bit of green on the plate, which is what it's picking up, as well as the yellow. It was called Marigold, and it was Tattered Angel's Glimmer Mist. Probably a sparkle in it. It's not probably going to be so noticeable on this, but I'll have a go with the Distress spray stain as well. This one's called Fossilized Amber, and it's because it's a colour, again, that I quite like. These ones can either spray exactly where you want them, or they splatter everywhere, and I have no idea why. I can make it work one time and I'm not very good at it the next time. But if you just give it a little squish, it's not going to be too disastrous. Otherwise, do it inside your spray booth. I've realised now that spray booth on video is not actually going to work. Yeah, see, I'm trying to spray it on the lace and I get it on the tray. It doesn't even, I don't know why it does that. Up close, far away, who knows? It just has something, it just does something similar. When you're using sprays and inks and things, think about what's going to happen with the colour. So I've used two different sorts of yellows, one being the amber, which is browner or greenier, and one that's marigold, bright yellow. If I'd have used red, I probably would have got an orange. Think about what colour will do to what colour. But don't just think about that. If you're going to use more than two colours, then you need to be even more mindful and understand colour theory a little bit more. Because if you use the three primary colours, red, blue and yellow, they will work to a point. As long as you don't smush it up like I've just done, you will get variations of red, blue, green, yellow, purple, but you'll also get brown. Because once your yellows and your purples and your greens start mixing together, you'll get brown. And that's how I got that piece of cheesecloth. It's because I used purples and yellows together that stayed purple and yellow in little bits and pieces of it. Anyway, the spray ink works good too. Just want to show you that. I was okay when it got itself all muddled up. So they're the spray inks. They work perfectly good too. The other thing that I have got, and I haven't washed my gloves and I haven't wiped the tray, but that's all right. I've got this daisy trim. It's probably more than 30 years old. I don't know why I have as much of it as I do, but for some funny reason, I have a lot. I like working in threes. The other one that I use are the acrylic inks, and they come in a bottle with a dropper. And the rubber droppers can perish a bit, but that's like, you know, it's a much stronger ink, and it's designed their artist quality things. This brand is called Amsterdam, and the colour is called, oh, you know, something that I can't see right at this very second. Something rose light, quinacridone probably, which is a colour, but quite intense. Like, really, I actually didn't, you know, draw any ink out. I used simply what was on that dropper and just touched it, and that was plenty. Again, it's going to need to be heat set, but it went all the way through. I didn't even try to make it go through. It just did that all by itself. I've got these in all sorts of brands simply because I pick up a colour. And so when I'm at the art shop, orange is called orange. This one is a Rembrandt brand. This is because one of my other inks leaked. It was lying on its side and it leaked. And so this one's got a weird thing, doesn't have a dropper with it. It might be better off with a brush. Let's try a brush. Ugh. But again, I'm just looking for a colour. I'm not looking for anything different to that. It's me finding a bit of trim or a bit of lace or a bit of fabric that I actually want to produce a colour, and it goes through. Actually, don't mind that little bit of pink on there too. Stick it on there. The pink and the orange look good together. It's in the same colour family. Pink and is white and red. Orange is red and yellow. Simple as that. Might as well use it. I've got it sitting there. I think that one can be in the wash. And I've always played with paints and inks and dyes and things just to get what I want out of it, and this is no different. Using it on my fabrics and using it definitely on my old fabrics. I'll just have a little bit more pink while I'm at it here. I probably should have put a bit more orange on that one, shouldn't I? But here's another one, and this is called Ecoline, and it's still the same thing. It's still a acrylic ink. It's probably called yellow. Looks like something's come off here, and that horrible thing leaked all over that. But every now and then, and these are those little bottles that, you know, I was talking about from the $2 shop. Oh, are they? I don't know where I got these from. Yeah, I think $2 shop. But it's the same. It's an acrylic ink that, you know, that was a drop. That was nothing. But I use it with my in my other mixed media artwork, so that's gonna all go the same colour if I'm not careful. And I wanted it to be a bit more variegated. Hopefully you can see that. Cool. All right. There's another little thing to do. All right, what else can I show you now? I think the last thing was a piece of gauze, and while I actually don't want any more of that gauze, I just thought I'd show you basically how I got it. That's gonna just go somewhere else now because I'm done with that. Balance it carefully over there. You hear a big crash, it wasn't careful. But having this gauze, cheesecloth, whatever you want to call it, dyed is just so useful because I use it for everything, in lots of things. And, you know, I might actually even cut it in half because I really actually don't want that much, but that's okay. I'll have it there. So what I did in this instance, number one, I haven't washed it. It's just brand new. And when I decided to do this dyeing day, I thought, well, I'm not washing it now. I haven't got time. I need to be filming. Here's another brand. It's a cheesecloth. It's a spray ink. It's an iridescent ink, spray ink with shimmer, and it's called Blackberry. You know, it's got that bit of shimmer down the bottom that I don't know whether it'll come off. I actually don't even know whether it'll spray. Who would know? It actually doesn't look like it's ever been sprayed. Possibly not. Probably bought it at some point. And is it going to spray? No. And the reason will be is because that stuff, yep, see that pearlescent stuff? It's stuck there. So let's just, oh, it's got a funny little thing there. Look at that. If I want this to go a bit quicker, oh, just do that. Flick it all over the place. No, don't do that. And, you know, get it going in the fabric. I've got a bit of that yellow. I don't think that it's going to matter that we mix them. They're probably all something very similar. But what on my demonstration is about showing you that the purple and the yellow will eventually go a brown colour. Let's have a bit of water. I might as well add that to the mix, because remember, do as I say and not as I do. The fabric hadn't been washed. I'm just going to pick it all up off there. I'm just going to keep going with it. Wish it would spray. That'd be so much better. A bit more of this on there. I don't think I've got another purple. I don't think I've got another purple spray thing. What a shame. I wonder if I could just dip it in the, see if I can give it a wash. I don't know that it'll, yep, there we go. Cool. Let's be careful with this one. It's going everywhere. Good. Now it's working. Just needed a bit of muscle. And a bit more of this ambery colour. But you can see that it's starting to go a bit brown. And it will do that the more you mush it around and fiddle around. And I could almost pretty much reproduce that piece I used for the bulbs. I've almost got the same colour, other than that weird fluoro. Shouldn't have put that bit on there. I can just go over it or use it for something. But I haven't killed it yet, but I'm very close to that original, and that's how I got it. So it's a demonstration purpose purely. I hope that's helped. If there's any other questions that I can answer. Some people rinse them once they've heat set them. If you can heat set it in your microwave, they then rinse them to get any excess dye out, because it may still colour your hands when you're using it. It might, if there's a bit of moisture in the air, it might get onto your embroidery. So I think if you know, you are happy with how you've set it with either the iron or the microwave, I'm going to have to use the iron because, like I said, I haven't got a microwave purpose for this. I could wrap it all up in plastic, and I have a designated bamboo steamer that, you know, you steam your dim sims in, and I have a designated pot. And what I can do is wrap this up in plastic, and if you don't want it to be bleed too much more on itself, you know, be careful how you wrap it, and then stick it in the steamer and give it a steam for, no, you're going to bring it to the boil, and you're probably going to steam it for 15-20 minutes, I guess, would probably be enough. Some of these things are a bit hit and miss. If you want to be a bit more careful about where your colour is on the piece of fabric, then, you know, wrap it up a bit more carefully so that it doesn't touch itself. But what you do want to do is make sure that it's sealed inside the plastic. And so, yep, keep those bits in there, wrap it up and put it in the steamer. And that should then give you a more permanent result with your dyeing. I think that's all. I don't think I can tell you anything else. If there's anything more, please don't hesitate to ask. It will work for embroidery threads. I've got embroidery threads already. I bought a large roll of thread, can't see it, that I just here, I think it's just, you know, crochet cotton. It doesn't have any name on it because I got it from the op shop, probably paid $2 for it. Wound some off, and I'll do the same thing. I'll spray this, use the Inktense pencils, and then do the same thing, wrap it up in there. This is where I've had a bit of colour bleeding. When I've used the Inktense pencils on my threads, ironed them and thought that I'd heat pressed them sufficiently, ended up with, you know, pinky purple hands because the dye has come off on my hands. It hasn't come off on my work, but I've ended up with, you know, the colour on my fingers. The first time it happened, I wondered what on earth I'd done to myself. But yeah, it was just the dye. All right. I hope you're having a lovely day. I hope you'll have a play. I like play days because that just gives me a little bit of motivation to use something gorgeous that I hadn't had before. Okay, see you later. Bye.